Hello everybody, welcome to the channel. My name is JGOD, and today's video is going to be something a little bit different. We're not going to really be talking Call of Duty today, even though I'm going to have some Call of Duty going on in the background. Today's video is more of a Q&A. Went over to Twitter, asked if anyone was interested in a Q&A, and I got several responses. So that's what we're going to be talking about in today's video. And it's also a little bit of a thank you video. I'm going to show off my 100K silver play button that I got from YouTube. I'll go ahead and open that up so you guys can go ahead and check that out, because I've never really posted anywhere. It's still in the package that I got back in December. I've just been grinding out videos, focusing on content, and never really got to that point. Hopefully you guys do enjoy the video, even though it is something a little bit different. Let's go ahead and get into these Q&A questions. Pretty much how I'm going to do these, I'm going to kind of read through them on Twitter, and then as I go through and post editing, I'm just going to put them kind of at the bottom, whoever asked this individual question. So you may go ahead and see your individual comment show up on screen. So the first one over here, it says, why do you think you are a god? And it's relation to my name. He says, don't you know that's blasphemy? It's actually part of my real name. My first name is James, and my last name is Godoy. So when you put the first three letters of Godoy down, it's just G-O-D. I was JGOD 316 back in the day. That used to be my old Xbox Live account or PSN account. And then I changed it, shortened it after I did YouTube from JGOD 316 down to just regular JGOD. And then people probably ask, well, how'd you get to 316? Well, back in the day, I used to be a wrestling fan. And if you guys were part of the WWF before they switched to WWE, you knew during the Attitude Era, they had that line, Austin 316 means I just whooped your ass. So back in the day, I thought that was cool. And that's what I ended up choosing as a PSN clan tag type thing back like 20 plus years ago. Next up is, what do you use to edit YouTube videos? What is your son's name, and how you got started into content creation? Pretty much I use Sony Vegas. It's kind of one of the main things. A lot of other content creators use Premiere. Those are primarily the two main editing softwares. There's also like Windows Movie Maker that I used when I first got started. You go ahead and watch one of my first videos. It's pretty tragic, the quality, but we've come a long way. Definitely appreciative of your guys' support in that goal. And then that last part there, we'll go ahead and cover that, I'm sure, in another question that comes up, which is how I got into content creation, because that one's a little bit longer of a story, and I think we'll get other questions that hopefully lead into that as well. It says, if you're only able to pick one COD to play forever, which would you play? This would either be BO2 or Modern Warfare 3. Those are, I think, my most two played Call of Duties. You know, if it's a jetpack COD, personally, I liked Infinite Warfare over BO3 or even AW. But at the end of the day, the boots on the ground, BO2 and MW3 were my favorite Call of Duties to play. Another question was, other than content creation, what would have been your dream job, or what would be your dream job? Initially, when I graduated high school, before I joined the military and stuff like that, in my head, I thought I always wanted to be some kind of teacher. I wanted to be a high school math teacher. I even went to school at UCLA. I was on my way to graduating, got into some money issues, stepped back to work full time, and never really ended up going back to finish my actual bachelor's degree. I ended up getting my associates from a community college or whatever, but that was the long-term goal. I wanted to be a math teacher, and I've always been like in the position where I'm trying to help others improve or teach in some way. So that's what I did when I used to work in sales. When they hire new people, I kind of take them through the ropes, kind of teach them a little bit of everything, and I got a lot of practice of that. Obviously now with YouTube, I wanted to focus on content that helped players improve, because before I did content, I wasn't that good at the game. I ended up watching a few guys, Exclusive Ace and T-Memory, which are drastically different. And from that, I was able to put myself in a position where I improved, and inevitably I got into a position where I felt I was confident enough to actually make content. And that's where we started on the YouTube channel, which is with the gameplay breakdown, which I still do on the channel today. So this one says, what made you think and decide you wanted to create tips and tricks on YouTube instead of just posting your own gameplay? And the main thing with that is, for the longest, I still post a little bit of my gameplay, but the problem with this game is, one, I don't play 10 hours a day like some people, so they'll play 10 hours a day, they get like 130 plus gameplay, and that's their upload for the day. I'm not going to sweat a 30 plus gameplay. And then I'm also not going to reverse boost, because there's skill-based matchmaking in the game. The amount of hours I would need to play, or to play with someone bad or manipulate matchmaking, just isn't for me. So a lot of times what I'll do is break down gameplay of people that are enjoying the game at that specific skill bracket. And a lot of times with subscribers, right in that average, sometimes below average, sometimes a little bit above average. That's why we mix in the top tier gameplay as well. And I've uploaded solo wins and stuff like that on the channel. I know not everyone watches every single video, but I've done solos, duos, trios, and maybe not duos. I think that's the only one I haven't done. But I've, especially early on, especially when Warzone dropped, multiplayer, it was all my own gameplay. But the problem with those style of videos is you end up doing a class setup in like the first minute. You don't really explain why it's good or not, and then you just show off some gameplay, which doesn't have a lot of value. I know I add a little bit more commentary, so there's a little bit more value. But overall, that's what like 99% of YouTube does, which for me is kind of boring. Even if you go for a 40 kill game, it's kind of cool to watch, but you've seen one and it kind of gets boring after that for me personally. So that's why I've tried to spread out my type of content over time so I get as much variety on the channel as possible, whether it's a class setup breakdown in a different way than a lot of the content creators just doing gameplay stuff. A little bit different than Exclusive Ace, which some people would compare me to him, but I try to make my content drastically different by covering stuff that maybe he covered, but in a different way, so that there's some overlap, but it's not like, hey, you copied his video or he's copying yours, because that gets kind of annoying as content creators for people to say that when in reality you aren't like hardcore watching each other's content. At least in my opinion. I'm sure he gets comments saying, oh, you copied JGOD. I get them, you copied Drifter, you know, whatever. You know, it's just how it goes. That's part of the YouTube thing, even though behind the scenes everyone's pretty chill with each other. So this next one over here, it says, how did you get into Carnage? This was actually a pretty straightforward question. I was just pretty active on social media and I focused on my videos. I know it's going to sound like this is a little too easy to do it this way, but that's all I did. I focused on grinding my content. Over the course of a year, I got to 10,000 subscribers. People started taking notice, especially within the smaller YouTube community. And I started getting noticed by certain members in Carnage that they kind of like trickled up the information. And Apollo decided, hey, you know what? Let's go ahead and bring him on. We had a phone call on Discord, and pretty much a week later, I was on the team. It took about a year after I started making content. I never said, hey, hashtag Carnage Clan, or I never did any of that stuff. I just focused on my craft, and in general, I just try to build relationships on Twitter with people that maybe I was watching their content, or I'd pop in a live stream, just say what's up, and over time, people just kind of got to know me. But there was really nothing special, just focused on videos and content creation as a whole. Other than that, nothing crazy. This question is, what is a tip you have for up-and-coming content creators like themselves? So one of the things that I see a lot of people run into is they're just trying to copy whoever's successful, which makes sense in a lot of ways. But as you become more successful on the YouTube ladder, I guess you could say, your content can be a little bit broader. And what I mean by that is when you look at older content, especially when channels were much smaller, even if you look at K3, Dismo, Swag, which are some of the biggest pillars, 1 million plus channels, 2 million in K3's case, where they've been in the community for a while. If you look at their older content, the types of videos they did back then versus when they hit 100,000 versus when they hit 1 million was different types of content. And that's not a bad thing. They've kind of evolved, and their audience has allowed them to increase that market area where they could pretty much talk about whatever, and there's enough people supporting and watching their channel. I think when you're a very small channel, all you really got to focus on is search engine optimization, which is if somebody searches for something, that you're the name that pops up. That's number one. Number two is finding out what your target demographic is. So for me, it's helping people improve, which is a large portion of the population as far as the gaming. There's ones that have been playing COD every year that are kind of been average or below average and they're looking to improve. Or there's people getting the game for the very first time, have never played Call of Duty, and have never played a first person in their life. So that's my target audience. If you're going for a gameplay channel, like Swag or Dismo, get high kills or whatever, and nukes or whatever you're gonna do, if you're going to that way, you're competing directly with them. So even if that's the content you want to do, it's going to be an uphill battle, unless you try to find a target audience that you're very happy with, and you're comfortable making content on, or it's just going to be that slow grind because you post a video about the M4, literally they're posting a video about the M4. Which do you think is going to get more views? And that's kind of what you just got to realize. Focus on the content that works for you. So I said, what were you doing before full-time content creation? Well, back when I graduated high school, I went to Marine Corps boot camp. I went for 3 months and I was a 92-day reservist. So that allowed me to go to college right away. I jumped right into UCLA. Probably about 3 or 4 months later, I ended up getting a job at a grocery store. I was one of those courtesy clerks, bags your stuff, pulls in the carts. I was a hustler. I hustled hard, and I got promoted after about 3 weeks. They promoted me from front end. They put me in the meat department, and I kind of learned the back end part of the meat department, and I worked there for about 3 weeks, and the front end was like, hey, you know what, we need James up at the front. So one of the managers said, hey, let's pull him, and I became a cashier. So in the course of 6 weeks, I went from being a front end, you know, courtesy clerk up to a cashier. Then the economy tanked. This was back in 2008. So they cut hours. They cut them to a minimum of 24 because it was a union. But even then, I was making like $7 an hour. So it was pretty bad. Back then, you know, minimum wage was like $6.75. But since I barely started working, I wasn't making a bunch. Economy tanked. I started working at a gym. I quit my job, 2 weeks notice. I worked both at the same time. And then I jumped over into a sales job, and I worked in the gym industry for a total of about 8 or 9 years, moved into management. And then some things happened, and then I ended up stopped working there, and I took a year off, and then I ended up started, you know, doing content creation. And that's pretty much the path I had. All right, so now let's go ahead and dive into this bigger question, right? It says, how you got started on YouTube. What is it like balancing your job and being a family man / dad? If you weren't doing YouTube, what would you be doing? And the answer is I probably wouldn't be doing anything, honestly. Because what ended up happening was about 4 years ago, before I started YouTube, I ended up, like I said, I was working in the gym industry, and I was a manager. I was making decent money, and I ended up buying the house I live in now. Obviously, I pay a mortgage and stuff like that, but it was not like really expensive or fancy or anything like that. Just enough for me, and then my wife at the time, and then also my son. So pretty much what ended up happening was we were together for about 8 or 9 years. Got together in my junior year. We got married. And then we got our house, and then my son was born. And then right around that time, my wife was working temp agency after temp agency. And then probably about a year after we lived in our house, my wife started working permanent job. And probably about 7 months after she was working her full-time permanent job, she went to work and never came home. It ended up making national news. It was part of the San Bernardino shooting. 14 people died, and she happened to be one of them. As a result of that, there was workers' comp and a retirement since she was working for the county. As a result of that, that's enough to cover my finances just by a little bit. So like if I didn't work at all, I could pay my mortgage, I could pay my phone bill, and I could pay my electricity, and enough for food for me and my son. And that's pretty much it. It was just me and my son. I lived here. He was 2 years old, or almost 2 years old. And then basically I took about 6 weeks off after everything happened. Got to meet the president. It was Barack Obama at the time. He had a private meeting with the family members. So I got to experience, you know, that part of it. Had a funeral where like 1,000 people showed up because it was national news. So that was interesting, talking to reporters, being on radio. It was an insane time. And then after about 6 weeks, I went back to work. And I went to work just because I thought that was the thing you needed to do, right? Like I'm going to work. So I went back, they modified my schedule, and probably about 4 months in, I was like, why am I working? Because I'm driving, dropping my son off at daycare. He's staying there 8 hours a day. Then I come home, I spend time with him, bathe him, whatever, get him ready. And we do it again 5 days a week. And the grind, it just felt like it wasn't worth it because I could just spend the time with my son, especially if I don't live recklessly and just spend money frivolously. I pay my bills, stay home. If I want to go to family, I can. I just spend my time with my son, especially as little as he is. And anyone who's a parent, you know, you don't get to redo that time. Once they get older, that's it. You know, they're only 2 years old once, or 3 years and 4 years that one time. So that was obviously a tragic time. On April 1st of 2016, yeah, it was, 2016, yeah. On 2016, I ended up, that being my last day of work. And I was like, I don't know what the hell I'm gonna do. I ended up taking about a year off. I did nothing, literally nothing. I'd go, you know, watch some Netflix, go to the movies, spend time with my son, go to family functions, that type of stuff. It was normal, whatever. I just didn't work. It's like I could afford my bills and I didn't work. It was kind of a weird circumstances. And then right around that time, I was kind of getting a little bit bored. And I thought, hey, you know what? Let me focus on, maybe just getting better at Call of Duty. I've been playing Call of Duty for like 7 years, 8 years. Let me get into playing Call of Duty. So that's where I ended up finding YouTube. And that's where I found Exclusive Ace's channel. That was the first video I ever found on YouTube, was how to get a nuke. And then I ended up watching live streams, and that's where I found Team Memory's channel. He has a large following over on Twitch, and obviously most of you guys who follow me know who Exclusive Ace is. And then after that, like I said, I dropped my first nuke. I started improving, and I got to a point where I was like, I think I can make content. I think I can make tip videos in a way that people aren't currently making them. That was what my decision was. And I said, hey, you know what? I'm going to take July to figure it out, what I need. And then in August, I'm going to start uploading videos. And I was uploading like twice a week. So I was making a rookie mistake there. You got to upload, dedicate the time. I would do, if my son was taking a nap, that's when I would do my videos. Commentary, quiet, whatever. So that's what ended up happening. That's how I got into content creations. I ended up being off work and I was bored. There's almost so much you can do, as far as entertaining a 2-year-old, that you need to be busy with a hobby or some kind of activity that gets you going. And YouTube was that for a little bit. And then eventually I got to a point where I was understanding YouTube a lot more, and I was getting more comments. I got traction. After about 4, maybe 5 months, I ended up with 1,000 subscribers. And then by about 14 months, I had 10,000. And now we're sitting up over 400,000. So almost 400,000. And we've had a pretty long journey. I never expected to do YouTube. I didn't think it was an option. And it was really never about the money part of it, because even though I can make enough on YouTube to pay my bills, even if the other money wasn't there, it was never about that. It was just more about, hey, you know what? I need to be busy. And I was used to doing work like 50 hours a week in sales or more, working on my lunch breaks, that type of nonsense, taking phone calls from home, to being literally me with a 2-year-old that is learning to talk and walk and do all its stuff, right? That it normally does. So that's how I got into it. So that's the shorter version of it. I could talk probably a couple hours about that individual thing, but that is pretty much what it is. Let's go ahead and keep going through. So it says, what is your favorite thing about Carnage? So I think one of the coolest things about being in Carnage is, in general, the people in there, they all have their own things going on. But in general, I think there's good rapport and camaraderie where people talk about different things, and we get a trade and bounce ideas off each other, even if we're not directly communicating in a sense where we're collabing on videos or we're working on videos together. There's certain times where I'll go, hey, what do you guys think of this thumbnail or this title? Same thing with them, and vice versa, or they just, advice across the board, or maybe we're joking about something in the community. So those are some things that are fun about it, instead of just kind of doing this thing on your own and really not having anyone to kind of talk about YouTube with. Because most people, unless you're doing YouTube, you really don't understand what goes into doing YouTube. Besides you, who's the best Warzone YouTuber for informative content? So this is actually different. I would say that if you're looking for like the understanding of the game and a breakdown of mechanics, no, just like an overall understanding of the game, it's probably Iceman Isaac. I mean, he's a longtime BR player. I think Sparrows is up there. I don't think he understands how much value he can bring to the community. I know he does a lot of YouTube content, streams a lot, but I think he's an untapped potential in terms of knowledge that he could put out on a regular basis to help players improve the same thing. And then obviously Exclusive Ace that breaks down stuff, Drifters breaking down stuff for damn near a decade. So you got a lot of people on that informative side, whether it's breakdown of in-game mechanics or a breakdown of tactics. There's completely different, but those are like the four guys that I would mention as far as overall content goes. So this one asks, who is JGOD outside of YouTube? Do you have a wife, children? What do you do to unwind? Is your YouTube your full job? And what music do you like? General stuff, bro. Not to get too personal. And then he goes on. So I already touched on a lot of that stuff, but what I do to unwind is I watch YouTube streams or Twitch streams. I watch YouTube videos. That's kind of more to relax. I play the game. That's part of it. Sometimes I just hang out. Before COVID, I used to go to the movies pretty regularly, see the new movie that came out every week. Maybe go to the stores, hang out with family, go to a restaurant. That's normally what I do. As far as music goes, I hardly ever listen to music. Like, I don't include it in my videos. I know it sounds kind of odd, but generally, even the only time I really listen to music is when I'm driving around. And I know it might sound odd, but usually I listen to either oldies or some kind of like rock or even a little bit of country, but more the pop country, not like the older stuff. or even pop, just because it generally sounds good, right? Like you can play it on the radio and you don't really have to worry. So I don't use CD player or nothing like that. Just whatever comes on, that's it. And I don't have some backlog in music that I listen to either. So pretty plain and simple in that regard, but to each their own. This one says, what got you into content creation and how do you plan your videos? So the content creation we've already kind of touched on. As far as what I do to plan my videos, so it really depends on the video. There's certain steps that go into it. So if I'm gonna do a generic class setup, I'll say generic because that's one where, like back before I used to do, I'd say, here's the MP5 class setup that I'm using in today's video. It's the, you know, it's the one, my favorite, without any explanation. It's just my favorite. And let's get into the gameplay. And then I would just do a live comm gameplay breakdown. And that's kind of where I debate some people into coming to the video for the class setup because that's high in search. That's what I had to do, especially when I was small. And then I do a gameplay breakdown, which is what I really enjoy doing. Talking about mechanics, how people are moving, how you could have handled things differently. That's what I really enjoy. And then that's how I would do it. I would play, get a gameplay. I'm like, cool, I could talk about this one. There's some learning things from it, whether something's a spawn, how I position myself, how I use the weapon for close quarters versus long range, strengths and weaknesses of the weapon, instead of here's a class setup and I'm a god at the game. I don't really like understand that type of content as it being successful, just because there's a lot of variables there that maybe you don't understand from the outside looking in. So that's those types of videos. If I'm doing a video like we just did the other day, we're talking about how a lot of YouTubers exploit skill-based matchmaking and do reverse boosted lobbies. That one I actually had the video idea probably about a month before I made the video, and then I kind of sat on it for a while. I was like, should I make this video? Am I gonna get a lot of hate, whether it's from other YouTubers or from people in the comments section just saying I'm a hater? And then I had to conceptualize the video. Then I tweeted about it and it got a lot of engagement. I was like, now I got to do the video, right? People seem really interested in it. So I ended up doing the video. And before I did the video, I thought like long and hard about how I want to organize it and all the different talking points. I know it was a hell of a long video, like 26 minutes. But I kind of made a little bit of a list of what I wanted to talk about. More of a list. I don't do any scripts on any of my videos. I just kind of talk off the cuff, and whatever stays, stays. If I feel like I need to repeat myself, I'll stop, repeat myself, and then just edit it so it sounded like I didn't mess up, right? Pretty straightforward. That's normal process there. Gameplay breakdowns, I normally get the gameplay, and I just react to it live and edit it down. Sometimes those gameplays, you guys don't realize it, I might be recording for like an hour or 45 minutes, and then it's a 25-minute gameplay that I chop down to like 25 minutes. So I chop out a lot of other parts where maybe even nothing was going on, or I just didn't have anything to say, or maybe I messed up a few times. I just repeat it there. So that's pretty much the overall thing of my videos. That's a couple different options there, but it really depends on the video. Update video, normally I just read patch notes. If I need to test something, I'll test it. It really just depends. I'm interested in probably doing a setup video. This one's related to my setup. So if that's something you guys are interested in, just let me know either in the comments or over on Twitter, because I do have a lot of stuff as part of my setup that I built over the past 3 years. It says, how many monitors do you have in your setup? I keep seeing you look around when you're making videos. What are you looking at all the time? So there's a couple different things, right? I have 4 monitors set up. I have my main one, which is the one I game on. And that goes pretty much directly to my dedicated gaming PC. And this kind of operates as my console, and when I played on PlayStation, it would plug into this individual monitor. So that one's there with the camera above, and then I have an ultra wide up top, which this one is where I can read like notifications when I'm streaming over on Twitch or whatever. I can look at the OBS, which when it's recording, I can see if, okay, am I blocking something that's on screen? Because if my mouse is over here and I'm covering part of it, I got to know that, right? And then I also have multiple monitors up, 2 other monitors. One that maybe I'm watching a stream. The other one I might have, a Twitter up or notifications for something else. So it really depends on how I use it. But I have a 4 PC setup where 3 are on the desk mounted, and then there's 1 above it. And then I have the 2 key lights, which bring light from both sides, so there's not a lot of shadows. So that's pretty much how that part works. All right. So this one says, are you Hispanic? You sound like you have an accent, low key. Yes, I am Hispanic. My dad was born in Mexico. He currently lives in Mexico. I'm half Mexican, and on my mom's side, it's the white side. I don't know all the different mixes in there, but half Mexican and half white. I was primarily raised by my dad, with my mom there as well, but primarily my dad. And obviously he has a Spanish accent, being born in Mexico and being fluent in both English and Spanish. So sometimes when I do say words or I react to something, there's a little bit of an accent in there, and that is the half Mexican side coming out, I guess, in the accent. And then there's another one here. It says, how old are you? I'm 32 years old. Sometimes that's why it ends up looking like I look tired as hell, even though I sleep 7 to 9 hours a day. I actually sleep 7 to 9 hours a day. I drink my water, get my Gfuel in the afternoon, you know, a little bit of caffeine instead of a coffee. But I also have a high resolution camera that makes it look that way. And because of COVID, you know, everything's closed down. You don't go out quite as much. So I got to get special vitamins, I guess now. I just went to the store and actually bought some because I was like, I'm kind of tired of comments, people saying I look tired, even though I'm fully rested. The only time I might be tired after an update day, stay a little bit longer. But in general, I'm not like, I have regular sleep, you know, like most of you guys. It's just, I'm 32. That's older than the average gamer you guys probably watch. So that's why I look a little bit more tired, even though I'm fully rested. All right. So I think that's for the Q&A. I'll probably do one of these again in the future. I went through a majority of the comments. I think I told you a little bit more about myself in addition to, you know, answering some questions. So I'll go ahead and show this off. I don't know if it'll pick it up. Let's go ahead and see. Oh, it actually does. It actually does. JGOD for passing 100,000 subscribers. So I definitely appreciate this. I thank you guys for supporting me along the way. I know there's a lot of you guys out there that have been there since, you know, World War II. When I started getting a little bit more recognition through BO4, and so many people have come along for the ride over in, you know, Modern Warfare. At the beginning of this year, we got over 100,000 subscribers, which huge. This is insane. And that's in 2 years we did that. I mean, it's just amazing for Call of Duty when everyone said it was a dead game and there's no way to grow in there. And I seen other people, you know, struggle or make excuses. I was like, I don't know how to do this. And I think that's part of where my age comes in. And being in sales, I have a little bit more business experience, so I understand, you know, the different things that are going to help you be successful. And one of them is just putting out good content, which hopefully that's why you guys are here. Especially anyone who made it this part, you guys are definitely ride or die, because I know most people, they don't stick around this late into the video. So I do appreciate this. The light's getting thrown off with that auto light, but I do appreciate this. Thanks for all the support. You know, I have big goals for this upcoming Call of Duty Cold War and the adaptation with Warzone that's going to be happening. So there's going to be tons of content in the coming year. And hopefully we can get that pushed to 1 million subscribers and get that gold button, because obviously that's the next milestone, right? So I do appreciate all the support on the content. I do thank you guys for watching, liking, commenting, all that good stuff. It does go a long way, and I do recognize how much support you guys do show. So thank you guys for watching, and as always, have a great day.